just past sunrise, and we are on Immigrant Canyon Road, just above Death Valley in the Panamint mountain range. And all around you, you see the Panamint Mountains. This road you're looking at here ahead is the road to the old ghost town from the gold mining era, the early 1900s. It's the town of Skidoo. It's about 9 miles up this road. So what we're going to do, since the beast is not too good on roads that are not asphalt, we're going to take the Silver Bullet bike. And there we are, all ready to go. So here we go towards Skadoo, and we'll look at the history of Skadoo. Pretty colorful history. So here we go. Okay, we've been on this Skadoo road for a bit. We're at a high pass, about 5,800 feet, and all the hills around us are, have scattered mines. I've passed 3 mines so far. There are something like 1,000 mines in this area, in these hills. This is the forward-looking view of where we're headed. And along with the mines, we're about to see the remains of iron machinery, wooden cabins, old rusting cars, and other odds and ends from the mining era. The largest, most impressive remaining structure is the Skidoo Stamp Mill, and we'll be looking for that in a bit. It was used to extract gold from iron ore, or from raw ore, I should say. The Skidoo Stamp Mill is built on a steep hillside which slopes 3,000 feet down toward Telephone Canyon. So we're approaching Telephone Canyon now. The stamp mill's location on the slope was due to the use of running water and gravity in the gold extraction process. So we'll be seeing all that in a bit, but I just wanted to show you from a high point the hills around here. And as a matter of fact, I'm not sure, but I'd make a bet that we're looking at Wild Rose Peak right ahead in the center. And then that means that Telescope Peak would be beyond, to the left of Wild Rose, and actually this may be Telescope Peak. So you can see pages for Wild Rose Peak and Telescope Peak on LasVegasAreaTrails.com, and how we got there. Charcoal kilns at the base of the trailheads for both of those, and amazing charcoal kilns. There's a page for the charcoal kilns on Las Vegas Area Trails, along with, now I've seen evidence here just on this road of hoof marks, and those tell me that there are burrows here, wild burrows, and anywhere there's a mining process or history, you see wild burrows wandering around that were left from the mining era, and they're the ancestors. They're the descendants of their ancestors, which were brought here by the miners. So I've seen signs of burrows already, and maybe we'll see a few. If you go to the Wild Rose Charcoal Kilns page, you can see some family of burrows that we saw on the road on the way back from the charcoal kilns. So anyway, that's an introduction to Skadoo and what we're about to see, and let's go ahead and discover some of this. All the way down from nearly 6,000 feet to the valley floor, Death Valley, at below sea level. There you have it. There's the salt flats of Death Valley. And we're continuing along this Skidoo road, looking for Skidoo, and looking for Telephone Canyon and that Skidoo Stamp Mill. So here we go. Along the way, there are some very old roads. They're probably wagon roads. And here's a little sign that says, Wilderness Exploration, foot and horse traffic only. And you can see, looking ahead, the look of that old road, and probably wagons traveled along this road at one time. And then, you know, looking out in the distance, it looks as if the road winds around and goes over through that opening and maybe down into Death Valley, or maybe to a mine that, you know, an old gold mine. Who knows? There's always the thought that that there was some missing gold. Somebody didn't find all the gold. If they had 1,000 mines here and they were digging all over the place, you just think, oh wow, I'm going to find gold. You see how people would really get into it. It's kind of interesting. The founder of Skidoo, and I'll mention this a little bit later, didn't look like he was prospecting for gold, but rather he was a little smarter. He opened up a store, a trading post, to supply those people who were searching for gold and going after gold. And that really tells you something. It's kind of like internet marketing, where the ones that are really making the money are selling the tools to people who are looking to make it big on the internet. And they're making these promises. You can master this tool in 5 minutes. It's going to give you an entirely new career, and it's going to become your cash cow. And I bet that's pretty similar to the story that these smart traders were telling to the prospectors out here. But anyway, yeah, nothing changes over years and years. But you're looking down into Death Valley, and off in the far distance there, I believe that's the Mount Charleston Wilderness, that high point, very faint, very, very faint in the background, right in the center. Okay, let's continue on this 9-mile Skidoo road and see how far Skidoo actually is. On a mountain bike, it's pretty rugged, but hey, it's a decent road. If you're into gravel roads on mountain bikes, you're going to love this road. But here we are at the site of the town of Skidoo. And this is about the most you're going to see of that town, because when you look, here you go. Here's a few old cans from, you know, some townsperson left them long ago, but this is the town site of Skidoo. Lots of roads still. You can see a road that goes up to this point on the hill, and it looks like a mining structure up on that hill. Let's see. Yeah, right in the center there. And we'll see a few more before we're done. Here are a few more Skadoo artifacts. So just to let you know a little more about Skadoo, since we're on the actual town site, though you can't see anything. In 1906, two miners traveling to nearby Harrisburg, located on the Augerberry Point Road, discovered gold in the Skadoo area. By 1907, James Arnold, the proprietor of the Skadoo Trading Company. Remember I mentioned how the founder was a lot smarter than the people that came searching for gold, because he became the proprietor of the trading company, which sold implements to the miners who were in these hills searching for gold. And James Arnold's the guy that made the money. Okay, he founded Skadoo. Skadoo existed for just 10 years, from 1907 to 1917, until 75,000 ounces of gold worth $1.6 million at $20 an ounce had been extracted from the surrounding hills, depleting the gold ore in the area. The total cost of the operation was about $300,000. And so I did a little math. That left $1.3 million in profit over those 10 years, amounting to an average of about $130,000 a year. It doesn't seem like much for all that work, but in 2021 dollars, the profits would amount to nearly $3 million per year. These profits help support the 700 residents of Skadoo, including over 100 mine workers, along with the town's telephone exchange, post office, newspaper, press, school, and bank. The mine was managed by Matt Havoc, for whom the post office was originally named. Mining sporadically continued until 1942, and by the 1980s, most of the town's buildings were gone. And you can see 2021, how many buildings are left. Looks like there was never anything here. Now, where there's a lot of money, there's bound to be some drama. In 1908, Joe Stimpson, the co-owner of the Gold Seal Saloon, with his partner Fred Oakes, was accused of murdering James Arnold. Remember, he's the guy with the trading post. An angry mob hung him from a telephone pole. The legend has it, and the legend is unproven, that the townspeople dug Stimpson up and rehung him for the benefit of the press. So Stimpson is referred to as the man who was hung twice. So there's a little bit about the colorful history of Skadoo, located above Death Valley. Here's an old car that didn't make it. Old rusty remains of an automobile. And while we're here, we'll do a little exploring. Here's a mine. Yeah, you don't want to go in these because they can be very unstable. You'll notice almost the perfect dimensions of this mine, and chances are the dimensions are so that a car that carried the ore could move along tracks that may have been here at one time. So if you can imagine trying to get through the solid rock, was it a manual process with picks, or was dynamite used? Who knows? But yeah, quite a job. And here's the Skidoo Stamp Mill. And the reason that it's pointing down Telephone Canyon, there's Telephone Canyon down there. And boy, you see a lot of artifacts. Let's take a closer look here. There's one of the tanks, water tank, cyanide tank, we don't know. Very unstable structure, so it's not very wise to be dancing around on the beams up there. May be your last dance. But you can see how imagine the water rushing down and separating the gold from the raw ore. Give you a little more history on the stamp mill. This is the only water-powered mill in the Death Valley area. The water was piped from a spring 23 miles south on Telescope Peak. The locals believed this was the origin of the slang term 23 Skadoo, which was used to mean go away, beat it, scram while the going is good. Curiously, the term Skedaddle, which originated in the 1800s, may have contributed to the meaning of 23 Skadoo. In addition to the early 20th century gravity feed system for separating gold from its ore, there are 4 mercury amalgamation tables and 9 large cyanide tanks which still leach cyanide into the environment, causing an environmental hazard. Antimony, arsenic, lead, mercury, molybdenum, and zinc were found between 2014 and 2016 at levels above the natural background conditions. So at this time, the gold extraction area is closed to the public while it's being determined how to clean up the pollution. So pollution over 100 years ago, and we're just trying to figure out how to clean it up. And then you can see more of the area around the mountains. And I'm not familiar with this area enough to be able to say exactly what those mountains are. But at some point, we'll figure that out. That'll be another day adventure. Anyway, let's go ahead and check out this stamp mill. A higher view of the Skidoo Stamp Mill. Imagine carting all this wood and machinery up to this area, or the raw materials even. And imagine, what would you do 100 years ago if you ran out of some piece of machinery? Some piece of machinery broke and you couldn't fix it, and you needed to go to the nearest town to find a replacement. Of course, you'd need to travel by wagon, horse, mule team, and that could take weeks. and then you bring the part back and it doesn't fit. Oh boy, these guys went through a lot to create all of this. Let's take a close look from the bottom up. There's one of the tanks. There you have it, the Skidoo Stamp Mill. Extracting gold from raw ore. Let's see, I think there might be a mine up here. Okay, now from this perspective, I get a better idea where we are. There's the Death Valley salt pan, and we're probably looking down to the Stovepipe Wells area. I still can't tell you what all these other mountains are yet. A lot of exploring to do. But look at the hills right around this area. All these hills had 1,000 mines in these hills. You can imagine the activity that was happening while so many people that, groups of people that were working on a mine were sure that they were going to strike it big. And well, some of them did. A lot of them did not. Let's see what's up here. Looks like these rocks have been beaten up, so I would think there's something up here. These are not the way rocks naturally end up on top of a hill. Let's look around. Aha, just as I thought. Looks like we've got the closed off entrance to a mine right here. And then a little more of a structure down below. Let's take a look at that. Yes, this might also have been a mine entrance, definitely closed off. And curiously, it is almost directly above the mine we were looking at a while ago. And there's that old car down in Telephone Canyon. Who can tell me what model that is? Oh, wait a minute. Take a look here. Here's another mine opening. A great way to find a mine is to look for the tailings. These are the rocks and the debris that were pulled out of the mine to clear the tunnel. And normally where you can see tailings like this, there's a mine not too far away, probably uphill. I don't think people would have carted all this debris up a hill. They probably carted it downhill. So let's go up there and take a look and see if we can find another mine. What do you know? There's an opening right here, and here are tailings all around it, and I think there are probably openings all the way up the hill. Let's explore a little bit more, but you can see all the tailings and all the debris that was, a lot of it taken out of this opening here, but then a lot more openings. They've closed these off because they're so dangerous. Here's another one. Another telltale sign is the cyclone fencing that closes off the opening to the mine. Wow. Hey, this one, woo, this one goes straight down. You don't want to be walking along and then all of a sudden lose your footing. I don't even know how far down this thing goes. Don't want to get too close to the edge, or this could be my last video. Okay, hopefully there's not one of those sudden holes that I'm walking over that is hidden. More tailings. Oh my gosh, yeah, all around us. So let's see what we've got here. Aha, there you go. There's another opening. Who knows, this could have been underground at one point and it all caved in. Wow, here's a big one. Let's go around the other side. Yeah, this is another one of those straight down jobs. Wow, look at this. And there you can see down through the fencing, you can see the opening of the mine. Wow, can you imagine lowering yourself down into that mine with a pick and a shovel? Let's get a better look at the landscape around here. Now look here, we've got another one. And possibly this was a cave-in. Well, let's just take a look around. More structures. And then on the hillside, you can see number of mines, mine shafts. So yeah, a lot of activity here. To extract that $130,000 a year in today's money, that'd be around $3 million a year that these guys extracted from these hills. And then at some point it was all gone. 10 years, they all packed up and left. Could not find any more gold. Of course, there were some of the miners kept searching for whatever was left until the 1940s, and then they gave up. Here's another structure down here, and it looks like a very elaborate enclosure, so there must be a shaft that goes straight down there. We'll go over and take a look at it. Just looking at these rocks, a lot of them glisten with tiny specks of metal there that are reflecting. Maybe these were crushed, and some of this metal was extracted as gold. Who knows? Okay, here we are. Here's the big one. Yeah, another straight down mine shaft. And wow. Like I said, imagine lowering yourself down here with your pick and your shovel. Who knows how far this thing goes? I cannot see the bottom. But definitely day's work down there. You wouldn't see the light of day the whole time. You come out at night. What a job. And then you're always got one part of your mind is asking the question, is this thing going to cave in? 23 Skidoo and the 23-mile pipeline from Telescope Peak. There, that high point ahead is Telescope Peak, 23 miles away. Now imagine running a water pipeline all the way from a spring on Telescope Peak, and there you can see the how it looks in without enlarging. And imagine how much pipe that would take. And then in addition, you're carting that pipe around with mules and who knows what other contraptions, maybe people carrying the pipe, but definitely that's a lot of pipe. And that must have been a massive achievement at that time by just a few people. Okay, let's explore this stamp mill. Let's see, which way shall we go? Let's try this. A lot of sheer edges in the area, and believe me, there are no soft landings, so I don't want to be looking into the camera too closely and walking off the edge of something. But here we are at the stamp mill, where they piped water 23 miles away from Telescope Peak, spring on Telescope Peak, and they piped it to the top of this. Well, look, here's a pipe. This could be the very pipe that brought the water 23 miles from Telescope Peak. So they piped it up high on this stamp mill and then used it to separate gold from raw ore. probably pulverize the rock first. And evidently there are a number of cyanide tanks. I think one is right over here. So, combination of pulverizing the rock and then washing it with the water, and maybe they use the cyanide to dissolve the rock. Who knows? They knew, and that's what matters. Here's a look from the other side of the stamp mill, and you can see the tanks a little better. Maybe that large one was water. And then we have cyanide tanks below. And you can see more still shots on LasVegasAreaTrails.com on the Skadoo page as soon as I get that finished within the next few days. Okay, let's continue making our way around this area. Here we go. I can't say how many times I've passed the turnoff for Skadoo, and it's interesting the stories we tell ourselves. My story was, oh, I'll go to Skadoo sometime when I have a four-wheel drive. Well, just the other day I thought, you know, I'm an ultra-distance runner and a mountain bike rider. And Skadoo is only 9 miles out and 9 miles back. What am I waiting for? And that's when I realized that, hey, I have the ability to go to Skadoo right now. I don't need to wait for a four-wheel drive or for anything else to happen. I can get to Skadoo just with the skills and the resources that I have. And here I am at Skadoo, that place I was telling myself so many years that, nope, you can't make it till you get a four-wheel drive. Okay, so much for stories we tell ourselves. By the way, here's a photo of the Skidoo Stamp Mill when it was at its height. And of course, look at it now. Still a pretty imposing structure, but definitely nothing like this. Okay, so if the other one that we were just at is the stamp mill, this that I thought was the stamp mill before is not. But guess what? I would imagine, it sure doesn't look like a mine. I would imagine that maybe, just maybe, this was a precursor to the huge stamp mill where they were testing out the process, and then they built the large stamp mill. Of course, I don't know. There's somebody that's going to be able to say, no, you are wrong. It was this other thing. But hey, it's a guess. Okay, now time to head back. The silver bullet is all ready for the 9-mile return trip. Hopefully there will be more downhill than uphill, but we don't know. We'll find out. A little side road we looked at a while ago. The lighting is much better right now. In fact, as we look in the distance, that whole side of the valley is lit up a lot better. We're looking straight at Mount Charleston, very faint in the background. And then these hills more in the foreground are on the other side of Death Valley. And continuing on up this delightful unpaved road. on this road, the Skidoo Road, which is up that way and down in that direction. There are some outlier mines. Here's a little cabin up here. It could be a cabin, or it could be a the entrance to a mine. Let's just go up and find out. Definitely a cabin. Somebody lived here about 100 years ago. And this is all that's left. Looking for gold. Living in the hills. Pretty simple setup. There are the shelves, sink, and then here's the living room. Here we are, an inside view, and there is the side door, and here's the front door. And here is no door. Below that cabin, looks like we got the startings of a mine. I don't know how far it went. Maybe there's a hole that went straight down. Maybe they just got this far and quit. Who knows? Okay, back to the road. Okay, another little cabin. Let's see what's in this one. There are a number of roads that branch off, and each one seems to go to some dwelling and a little mine. So it's like people built a cabin, and there's something across the way. Another little side road goes up to that area, that structure up there. So people seem to have found a mine and decided to work that mine and then build a little cabin to live in during that time. So let's take a look and see what this one is like. And I think the mine is probably beyond the cabin. I see some tailings up there in the hills, which are the telltale signs of a mine. We won't go up to the mine, but let's take a look at the cabin. These cabins definitely were not too generous. And you know what? I'm thinking, actually, that, now that I look at it, you wonder where the town of Skadoo went. All the buildings disappeared. Well, it almost looks as if people took pieces of those buildings in later years, and they created the cabins here. They were thinking, hey, I'm gonna keep trying to find gold. Oh, look at this. B plus B, 1957, 325.57. Interesting. And maybe this is a cabin from the era of 1957. Looks a little better built than the last one. And I think that one reason is it looks like they took railroad ties, and they made the walls out of railroad ties, which were very sturdy. And then some graffiti on the wall here from 115. So that would probably be 2015, not 1915. So there you have it. And interesting, it looks like a makeshift checkerboard. So yeah, what are you going to do when you're in this cabin for such a long time? Play checkers. And there you have it. Actually, the checkerboard, it looks like it's the only window. Well, maybe there were a couple windows, but there's the window, which means that this checkerboard may have been a piece of wood that was a tabletop from Skadoo, and they just grabbed it and turned it into the shutter for their window for this cabin. And there's the other window there. And a very comfortable bed. Yes, with real springs. So these guys were living in a little more luxury than the last cabin we saw. Okay, let's head out. Wait, guess what? Here's the mine for that cabin. And wow, this is definitely another one of those vertical mines. And you can see it's been shut off. And let's see, let's get around here. So yeah, you can see there's a ladder that goes down, and then there's another hole down there that goes horizontally. So and a piece of wisdom for you: when you're at one of these mines, do not drop your phone. I'm sure you needed to hear that. But okay, yeah, quite the interesting vertical hole. So this is the mine for that cabin. Back at the Beast. It took 3 hours to get to Skadoo, between 3.5 hours on the Skidoo road. That's going uphill. We gained close to 1,000 feet in the process, and definitely semi-loose gravel, but the road was pretty good. That was with no stops, 3 to 3.5 hours. On the way back, it took an hour and a half with 2 photo stops along the way. So yeah, definitely a breeze coming back. Lot better than going there. And here's Immigrant Canyon Road again, heading down to Stovepipe Wells area, and then this direction heading out to Telescope Peak. And as a matter of fact, see that pointy mountain there? That's Telescope Peak, and the more smooth mountain to the right is, or to the left, is Bennett Peak. And there are pages for those on Las Vegas area trails. So there you have it. Awesome day at the Skidoo Stamp Mill. It's a tongue twister. Okay, onward.